What if I told you some highways don't just lead you home? They drag you into a darkness where even reality begins to tremble. Tonight, you're about to hear 4 terrifying true highway horror stories. So quickly like and subscribe, and make sure you watch till the end. Let's begin. The night has a strange way of changing everything. Roads that feel alive and familiar during the day turn into long, hollow tunnels of darkness once the sun disappears. Highways stretch endlessly under the pale glow of streetlights, carrying a silence so deep that it almost echoes. Everyone has heard at least one eerie tale connected to these lonely roads. But some stories are so real, so terrifying, that they leave a mark on the people who lived through them. Today, we enter the world of 4 such true highway horror experiences, stories that changed those who survived them. The first story belongs to Ahmed, an ordinary man heading home late one night. It was around 2 a.m. The air was cold, and the only sound was the soft hum of his car engine. The highway was completely empty, and the headlights carved a narrow path through the darkness. Suddenly, Ahmed froze as he saw a woman standing right in the middle of the road, motionless, as if someone had placed her there only seconds earlier. His heart thundered, but he pressed the brakes. She looked pale. Her clothes were dark and dripping wet, and her hair hung heavily over her face, as if she had walked through heavy rain. But there had been no rain for miles. Against his better judgment, Ahmed offered her a ride. She quietly sat in the back seat, never lifting her head. Minutes passed in total silence. Ahmed kept glancing through the rear-view mirror. She sat still, unmoving, staring at the floor. But the third time he looked, the seat was empty. His blood ran cold. The car swerved slightly as panic gripped him. He stepped on the brakes. The tires screeched. There was no one, no sign of the woman anywhere. The air around him suddenly felt heavier, as if the darkness itself was pressing against the windows. He thought, or perhaps imagined, a faint whisper near his ear, something too soft to understand, yet too close to ignore. Terrified, he restarted the car, sped home, and never looked back. Later, locals told him that many people traveling that road had seen the same drenched woman, always disappearing without a trace. Ahmed never again traveled alone at night. The second story belongs to Sarah, who was on her way to visit her parents. She had always been independent, fearless, even at night. The highway wasn't fully deserted. A few cars appeared here and there. Everything was normal until a rusty old truck appeared behind her, its headlights glaring like 2 hostile eyes. At first, she paid little attention, but the truck stayed too close, far too close. Whenever she accelerated, the truck matched her speed. Whenever she slowed down, it slowed too. Its huge grille filled her rear window, almost touching her car. Sarah's palms turned sweaty as her breathing grew shaky. She reached for the car radio, but all she heard was a harsh static. The road grew darker, lonelier. The truck kept chasing her with unnatural precision. Her only hope was a small petrol station she spotted in the distance. She swerved into it and stopped abruptly. She exhaled heavily, trying to calm herself. But when she turned around, the truck was gone. No engine sound, no brake lights, no dust in the air. It had vanished, like it had never existed. The petrol station's caretaker approached and told her that this wasn't the first time he'd heard about a phantom truck on this road. People claimed it chased them, but was never seen stopping anywhere. That night marked Sarah forever. Even now, whenever she drives at night, those glaring headlights haunt her mind. The third story is about Naveed traveling on a freezing winter night. His car's heater had stopped working, and icy wind seeped through the windows. The road ahead was buried in darkness, surrounded by snow-covered trees. In that chilling silence, he spotted an elderly man standing on the roadside, shivering in the bitter cold. His clothes hung loosely, his hair blowing wildly in the wind. Naveed couldn't leave him there. He asked where the old man was headed, but the old man didn't answer. He simply nodded and got into the back seat. The journey continued in complete silence. The old man stared straight ahead, not moving even slightly. As minutes passed, the cold inside the car became unbearable, far colder than the weather outside. Naveed checked the mirror again. The old man's clothes were dripping with water. But how? Everything outside was frozen solid. No melting snow, no warmth, no water. Naveed blinked, confused, and looked again. The mirror had fogged up. He turned around in panic, only to find the back seat empty. The elderly man had vanished. The only evidence of his presence were small wet patches on the seat, as if a drenched body had been sitting there moments ago. Naveed slammed the brakes. There was no one on the road, no footprints, no movement, no sign of anyone ever standing there. Later, he learned that decades ago, an old man had frozen to death on that same route, trying to walk for help during a snowstorm. Many drivers claimed he still appeared on icy nights, seeking a ride he never finished. Naveed avoided that highway forever. The final story is of Rihan and his friends, returning from a road trip. Dawn was still hours away, and they wanted to get home sooner, so they decided to take a shortcut. The road wasn't on their map, but a worn-out signboard suggested it led toward their city. Laughing and chatting, they entered the dark path. At first, everything seemed normal, but as the trees thickened and fog rolled in, the road felt increasingly eerie. Minutes turned into hours, and the same curve appeared in front of them again and again and again. No matter how fast they drove or how carefully they watched the road, they kept returning to the same spot. Confusion turned into fear. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The road had no turns, no forks, no exits. Yet they were circling endlessly. Time felt frozen. Even the air inside the car grew unnaturally cold, as if something unseen was sitting with them. They tried speeding, praying, shouting. Nothing changed. The night refused to end. But the moment the first ray of sunlight touched the horizon, everything snapped back to normal. The fog cleared, and suddenly they found themselves on a main highway. Their GPS showed they were only 20 minutes away from home, even though they had spent the entire night trapped on that looping road. When they later asked locals, they learned the truth. That shortcut had been closed for years. Some travelers who entered it never returned. These 4 stories share one thing in common: the darkness of highways that sometimes reveals more than what the human mind is prepared to understand. Nighttime journeys often bring a sense of solitude, but for a few unlucky souls, that solitude turns into a haunting memory that follows them for life. These events remind us that the world isn't always bound by the rules we know. Some roads carry shadows, whispers, and echoes of those who once traveled them. And sometimes, those echoes reach out to us. You've now traveled through 4 true highway horror stories. And maybe next time you drive alone at night, under the pale stretch of headlights, you'll feel that unsettling sensation too. The sense that something might be watching from the darkness, that a figure might appear on the road, or that a familiar turn might return again. These stories don't just scare us, they stay with us forever. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell, because the next real horror drops sooner than you think. Thanks for watching.